Thank you, Father Chege. Our trustee is led by Wadiche, Patron OSS, Honorable Kenneth. Our director, Fred O'Connor. Our former director, Mr. Josephat Mwaura. Director, Starehe Girls, Sister Soita. Justice Macau. Other guests on the stage. I see the family of the founders, my colleagues, my brothers and sisters there, and the boys. Good morning. I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy to be here. And Captain, I'm privileged to have been there. Let me give you some fragments of words. Let us now praise great men. Unlike men who died, left no memorial, were forgotten, like they never lived. You have heard those words, better put, on Founders Day. These are the men: the late Dr. Geoffrey William Griffin, Joseph Kamiro Gekubu, and Geoffrey Gatama Gituru. The three G's, if you like. And certainly not among, or not in the category of the forgotten. SBC alumni all over the world, supporters of Starehe, parents, Kenyan public, familiar with Starehe, cherish fond memories of this gentleman who founded and built this great institution. The three earned it by dedicating their lives to this institution. They will be remembered as long as Starehe remains. The great school they founded, built, and bequeathed it to future Kenyans. Starehe has for decades been a great school, a center for bright boys in need of care and education. Its excellence in the formal prescribed curriculum, which I had, and the extended form of education that befits a free man, as Dr. Griffin quoted Aristotle, comprises the blend of Starehe. It's almost 10 years now since the demise of the late Joseph Gekubu, almost 20 years since Dr. Griffin rested, and more than 30 years since Geoffrey Gatama Gituru rested. I had the fortune of working at SBC for about 10 years, while Dr. Griffin was the director of Starehe Boys Center and School, and Mr. Gekubu for much longer, for he acted, I think, twice after Griffin. My name is Samuel Njiri. My file number is 7386, Jonjo House. I think I have been just about everything in this school except director and the school bazaar. For I have taught, I have been a senior master, I have coordinated the extra curricular program, I have been a house master chaka, and been a RS rep, now deputy, everything except those two. So, I want to put it in a way that maybe I can address his yearning. For those who knew the late Dr. Griffin in person, I'll remind you things maybe you already know or heard from him. And those who have gone through Starehe after, and we have had like 4 generations now, I want to provoke you into finding out what kind of men these people are. So I hope this will help you to answer in part to yourself the question, who were these men? Or at least to get you started. Late Griffin received me when I reported on posting as a teacher by TSC in May 1996, very warmly, as was his custom. His induction for new teachers was very thorough. I only tried. At first, he did not recognize me, and I let the formalities flow. His growing description of his institution, his expectations, and so on. To help, I mentioned what I have just done, my file number, house, and year of departure 10 years before. That man really stood in his office. He stood that time, walked around his big desk to the side of my side of his desk, and gave me a very strong handshake. He called me in Mr. Joseph Kingala. Mr. Joseph Kingala was the Deputy Director Academics, where I am, kind of. And the reception started all over again. He was very, very happy. He was genuinely happy. And likewise, we are genuinely happy to see you. Whenever you come, alumni, not only for this memorial, for all other reasons that you find to come over, visits, assembly talks, presentations, Founders Day, games, house party, etc. I always remember that joy when I see you. Late Geoffrey William Griffin towered over the other two. He was the first among equals. He was boss. That's how boys referred to him. I encountered him first in 80s when I was a student. He was still doubling up as NYS director and director SBC. Then he was a strong man, in green uniform always, or most of the time. And this was his favorite corner. He could shout his announcements, and everybody around this quadrangle could hear, in case he had forgotten something in assembly. His pet project that time, 1984-86, was that chapel. It was then being converted from housing classrooms into being a chapel. The consecration of that chapel was done in 1986 jointly by Cardinal Maurice Otunga and His Grace Bishop Manasseh Kuria. We attended that service. I think, Fred, you are there. Okay. The chapel is therefore Catholic and Protestant, depending on who is worshiping there, or neither of the above, because SDAs also have a right to worship. Griffin was a different man when I reported on posting by TSC in 96. Not in the green uniform, not as strong, but still very proud of his achievements and very contented. You have come at a very opportune time, he said. This year, 1996, Starehe is hosting the world here. Round Square International Conference. You can see that RSQ there. And Round Square is still, to date, one of the big sponsors and a house named after it. Griffin aged gracefully despite battling cancer in the last years and succumbed in 05. As he aged, it was difficult to adjust the routine because it was like that the routine in place was etched in his mind, as described in School Mastery by himself. He would literally get upset by any deviations, especially anything abrupt. In one assembly, there was no hymn sung, and I'm told it happened again. The reason was all the music students, the band, had gone for KMF. Madam Shivembe here did a lot of explaining, because according to him, things have to run the way they are. Baraza. It was in Baraza that we encountered both up close. Apart from the usual battles, of course, and rules of conduct, he had some themes that he relentlessly pursued in Baraza. I'll give you 4. A, persistence and truthfulness. He used coke and water to illustrate this, rising to the surface every time a cork is pushed under. Always a rise after every fall. Likewise, truth eventually will always expose itself, no matter how long it is suppressed. Stickability was his second. How long one held out in whatever one did. Hopping from one organization to another was likened to a rolling stone which gathers no moss. He recommended loyalty to your organization even through hard times. C, cults. He had very few words on this. Actually two, in quotes, don't join. On smoking, he confessed that he was not the best placed to advise. E, on why he never married, he gave two reasons. One, his girlfriend discovered before the nuptials that Griffin was already married to Starehe. As Griffin was contemplating this terrible eventuality, his girlfriend was stolen. Reason number two, he reasoned that his own children, if any, would disinherit Starehe. I'm not sure about his other children. F, his mission. His mission was to breed egos from boys in need, bright boys in need, and he did. He added some small print to this, quotes, that whereas I breed them egos, I'm not entirely responsible for the direction in which they will fly. Work ethic. I've already mentioned routine. Not surprisingly, though late Griffin was a Kenyan, born Kenyan, in Kitale and schooled in Nairobi school, he was British in lineage and manner. And so as British conduct their affairs, routine, supported by various offices and traditions, so did he, which was good for the school, for the growth of the school culture as it is today, hinged on ideals of round square, internationalism, democracy, environment, adventure, leadership, and service. Thank God, we are doing pretty well still in these areas. The school and center that the founders built and presided over. I have mentioned various offices. Some of these were, there was a primary school, primary division. There was, and still there is, a secondary school, secondary division. There was a technical division, metalwork, technical drawing, etc. The last one up there converted into a technical institute, accounting and computer courses, which actually heralded the digital era we enjoy in the country now, but killed off what CBC is desperately looking for, that is skills. There were aspirations and plans for a university even, Concord University at Kabiti Farm. I think that energy went into founding SBC, but I'm not sure. I was not in management. This conglomerate drove Geoffrey William Griffin and his co-founders into old age. Although he was above 70 score when he departed and was grateful for, in quotes, a long, fruitful life, in his last words, having done his duty wholeheartedly and wished that those after him would do likewise. An apt description of Starehe as it was then would then be a comprehensive school. That was 25 years ago. We have gone full cycle. For as a country, we are looking to build such institutions. What would I dream of? A package with a primary school, a junior school, a senior school, and an attached technical institute, friendly industries and hospitals nearby for experiential learnings and attachments to keep updated with new techs, trades, and industrial demands. This thing was already there before we, of course, took off on the well-trodden 844 route. Forgive me, but there are aspects of rote learning there, theoretical knowledge, competition, and some cheating. All aspects of most curricula designed for implementation by the State Department of Basic Education were there. Albeit in embryonic forms, it's like we have been learning with a form of CBT within TVET, the geo-training kind of thing, without knowing. Look up this curricula, maybe those who can, and project them on what was, and some of it still is at Starehe, and what we go for outside of our boundaries. Activities like he mentioned, the VSS, PA scheme, ECC, cadets, and others collectively answer to the mandatory requirement called community service learning in senior school of the upcoming CBC. So the framework is already in place. Just straight them to answer to specific objectives, timelines, learners, and human resource, and you set off. I think I'm thinking bridges between classroom and the real world, authentic work environments reached through VSS and all those clubs and societies that you know of. This is the heritage from the founders, and hopefully will, if properly harnessed, give Starehe a head start in implementing CBC at senior school, now that junior school eluded us. The founders were great supporters of this extracurricular program with resources and availability of learners, especially you when you are available within the term and during the holidays. Induction. I have mentioned teacher induction and how I was received myself. Learners got much more. When I see the physical training displays that you're working on, Mombasa camps, career talks, on Thursdays, they used to happen in lecture theater by him. Assemblies and baraza. Truly these men were married to Starehe. They were erudite after their own fashion, willing to experiment and courageously discard whatever did not work. Relentlessly pursuing these extras, even when we, because I was young then, we were not listening. We were deeply preoccupied with mini grades. Of course, that is the only language the public understood. Thankfully, there is now a paradigm shift, plus young, energetic teachers who are supporting that. And out of it, we shall be able to cross this bridge into CBC. The leadership structures that were there. I mentioned the many offices these founders had to listen to, and I hasten to add boarding, clinic, sponsorship office, job search, leavers hostel, where some young eagles were kept so that they could decide or figure out the direction to fly. POS was place of care, Gatkiland, all this needed attention. The structures in place dealt with this without disruption. The structures in place dealt with all this without any disruption, and all went on so well that maybe succession management probably did not receive as much attention. maybe there was too much to do. Deaths of these founders precipitated crisis, except maybe that of Joseph Geturu. But I was not on the ground then. Griffin shoes were too large to fill. Finances. But we are finding our footing on that one. Griffin. The finances are, well, again, I was not in management, but as a student, you can feel we are okay. You can see we are okay. All that time that I saw Griffin especially, I would say it was, he was a very rich man and a poor man at the same time. A great beggar who always wore a brave face, even when there were problems. In retrospect, I think he lived a life, all his life worrying about today and tomorrow for the boys. Because, of course, for him, I am sure he had a pension. On tomorrow, he hoped on two things. Two things. He was open. One, the endowment fund, which was inaugurated there, that monument. I think the Founders Day, the former third president was present, Jimet and Old Boys. I am happy that both have not disappointed. There were other grad moves and initiatives like Starehe UK, the £100 million fundraiser, etc. This man Griffin, not just while he was there, he was also looking into the future. Spiritual nourishment and wellness, the captain has dealt with that. I have also mentioned that chapel there and the use to which we put it. But with regard to matters religion, without a denominational sponsor, all found space, accommodation in Starehe, Catholic, Protestant, Muslims, SDA. There was a condition, no random changes and no fanaticism. School rules. There were two rules, and you know them. And to be sure, out of bounds to all boys is not one of them. The bland, red and blue. I remember Starehe girls were struggling with the establishment. They were wondering what kind of uniform for the girls. And the old man was, if you don't go red and blue, you won't go far. I'm glad they did. School band, of course. A strong alumni. Honorable visitations. We have had a good life here, I would say. Presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors, the loyalty. But the most important part of this Starehe plan is the good name of Starehe. Finally, brethren, since our founders, what have we done? What do we have to show? Gen Z? Not really. We need much more. And I recognize you. You are back from midterm. And I want to firmly believe that no curriculum has been brought from home for the sake of the good name of Starehe. Our joint service recently, I told you I'm in Job and Psalms. Coincidentally this week, I am 32, 33. And here enters, in that long struggle, here enters Elihu, one of the friends, not a friend of Job, but actually a bystander. Read what he said. And at the end, how he handled the old men. And at the end, what God did. He ordered Job to offer sacrifice to the 4, to the 3, and totally ignored Elihu. Think about it. I wish also to recognize my colleagues present. I think Graji, you are part of the service. I recognized you. And may the souls of our founders rest in peace. Thank you.